everyone. Welcome to our Daily Magic, where we talk about rituals you can use to cultivate magic in your daily life and the magic we're being out there in the world. My name is Kai.
I'm Dell. The way you introduced just now, I thought you was about to drop something or I had to drop something. He's like, and I'm like, so I was in a freeze a little bit. Like, wait a second, what I'm supposed to do? Hello, everyone. Welcome again to our magical hour. We have an amazing magical guest that we're going to introduce, but you know how we do it. First, let's drop our intro. Welcome back. And as you see, we have such an amazing guest here. And I'm going to go into the formal introduction, and then we're going to get into the powerful introduction. So, for those of you who don't know who this person is, her name is Chiara Townley. And Chiara was born in Italy, lived in the UK and Spain, and now lives in Portland, Oregon. Wow. She lives in Oregon with her husband, son, and puppy. Aww. After many years working in the hospitality industry, she decided to change careers. She discovered her love for writing when she wrote her very first book, which we will get into. And at the time, she just wanted to share her story. But later, she realized that writing meant a lot to her. So she studied the craft and pitched to the HuffPost. Area Huffington had already left there, but she replied to her email and invited her to join Thrive Global. She specialized in health and wellness, and she likes collaborating with publications and companies that want to make the world a better place. I say a world. She also wrote a contemporary romance with fantasy elements and is currently looking for representation. After spending the last 10 years reading about self-development and spirituality, meditating, and putting those lessons into practice, she felt called to help people. She developed a project that combines her love for writing and spirituality. Ladies and gentlemen, Chiara Townley.
Hey, Chiara.
Hi guys. Thank you so much for having me. So happy to be here.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. How accomplished can someone be? It's such an amazing bio.
Thank you so much. It's just trial and error, you just keep on going to find your path. I've always been a seeker, and I think I'll always be.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay, so first question, I'm just gonna go back to the beginning of your bio. You were born in Italy?
Yes, Milan. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Fashion capital of the world. What was that?
Yes. I've always had, I guess, kind of love for travel and just learning a lot about new cultures. And so I was never kind of happy there, and you're young, you just want to explore. And now I've learned so many other things about, accepting the present moment and being grateful. But at the time, when you're young, you just don't care about these things. You just want to discover new things and explore. And so I always wanted to travel. And I always thought that Milan was kind of a cold city, people, a little cold. It was hard to make new friendships unless you grew up with them and went to school with them. And so I felt like I needed to just go into the world and create my own path.
Beautiful. So, please, how did you end up, getting into spirituality, unless it was something that you were born into?
No, actually, I was born Catholic. Like in a Catholic family, my dad forced me to go to church when I was young. He would drag me, and then so I had nothing against it. But when I was old enough, to make my own decisions, I decided to just abandon that path. And I was like, I'm gonna find my own truth. It may be this one, but I want to find it on my own. I don't want anybody to force me to do something. And so, but I was in my 20s. Like I was more interested in romantic love, to find my Prince Charming. So I wasn't into spirituality that much. For me, it was about finding the love of my life. And so after university, I moved to London, and that's kind of where my life changed, and where there's this like where magic entered in my life, even though I didn't know it was magic at the time. I kind of learned it later in my late 20s, and moving forward from that point. But to cut the long story short, you can ask me any questions you want about the story. Is very complicated and very long, so I'm just gonna cut it short. But I work in a hotel in London, and it was September 2009. One day, this couple of Americans came to the check-in, and there was this young guy with them. And I look at him, and I heard a voice, internal voice, whatever you want to believe it was, my guide, God, you can, label it if you want, but it was an internal voice. And it said, you're going to marry this guy. And it was incredible because I never had an experience like that before. And I was like, what was that? And I didn't know what to do, because I thought like, well, okay, I don't know when I'm going to see this guy again. I mean, his parents are here, they're guests of the hotel, but when am I going to see him again? And so I didn't know what to do, and I thought about it. And the day of the checkout, I wasn't working. So I wrote a little note, and I gave it to my coworker, and I said, please give it to the son of this room, give it to the parents and tell them to give it to their son. And so eventually, after a couple of days, he wrote me, and he said that he had finished his year of studying in London. He was studying. He said, like, I would have loved to hang out, but I am going to travel in South America for a little bit, and then I'm going back home to the US, So a normal person would have probably given up at the time and be like, okay, well, I guess it wasn't meant to be. But the voice was really powerful for me. And that's the thing about intuition, or when something is magical. It keeps on like bothering you. Like you keep on thinking about it, and you're like, but that was something, right? It said I would marry him. And so then I added him on Facebook, and that's kind of how we fell in love. Well, he was traveling around South America, and I was in London, and we were writing each other. And that's how we fell in love. And it was kind of the fairy tale love that I've always wanted. And then he called me for the first time that Christmas when he went back to the US. And he said, come to live with me in Seattle. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm crazy enough to do that, but why don't you come to London at least for a week so we can actually hang out, physically, if things work out. And he did. And so he came in February 2010, the year after. And it was all magical, like this fairy tale love. We just didn't know anything about the practical side of things, and immigration especially, and stuff like that is so hard. And so I moved to Seattle, but things didn't go well because, the fairy tale met with reality. And so that's when things kind of fell apart a little. So things didn't go well. Then after the 3 months of the tourist visa, I went back to Italy, but I decided to move to Spain because why not? I wanted to learn Spanish too. And so I looked for a job there. And that was the dark part of the story, where eventually he started to date someone else. And I was like really sad. I was in a really dark place. And my friends were really worried about me. But, that voice was still present for me. So I told everybody, I'm going to marry this guy. They thought I was crazy. But then I married him. So here's the end of the story, spoiler alert. Eventually, after a couple of years of darkness, we found our way back to each other, and we got married in 2014.
Wow. Congrats. First thing that came to my mind, those friends that said that you were crazy to think you were going to get married, what did they say to you after you got married?
People don't like to admit they're wrong, so they just say congratulations.
Isn't that? Yeah, that's like a great thing to point out, how it just shows like what happens when you know something's going to happen and you stick to the course of allowing it to happen. No matter what the outside noise is telling you, oh, it's not possible. Oh, it's not going to happen. You're crazy if you're thinking that. You like, hey, I know it's going to happen, and you steer the course for it. There's a lot of people out there who let outside noise interfere exactly with what they are going after, and in this case, is a relationship. And another thing that pointed out to me as you were talking about this is normally, I guess the quote unquote social norm is for the man to be the more aggressive one, the one to really pursue, and for the women who know what they want, they have to some of them just wait to allow the man like, oh, let me wait for him to show me this pursuing and this other stuff, and it's like a game of like cat and mouse type of thing. I love the fact when you mentioned like, yo, like I want to marry this guy, and you were actually pursuing it, and you were it was like an alignment as well. It wasn't like a way of like you're trying to force it to happen. It's like you knew it and you went for it. And look what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that people often in life, in many things, they give up too soon, especially in relationship. Considering these modern times, everything is so fast. There are these dating app. You go out with someone, does something like during dinner that you don't like, and you're like, no, 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 I'm just fast. And it's just like, it's kind of ruins also the fact that things can go in a different direction, that life can surprise you. And for me, when I decided to get married, it was a big second chance that I was giving him, because he did things during those dark years that, weren't that nice. But I gave him a second chance, and every second chance it worked out. And so I invite people sometimes, to give second chances. Obviously, always listening to your intuition, but, like second chances can be powerful too.
Yeah. Because like who's perfect?
Right? Right?
we
Yeah.
all make, I guess, quote unquote mistakes or things like that in our life, and it's like what we do with it, and especially in relationship. Like we all, both of us, like talk about our relationship too. We each made mistakes in our relationship, but it's like, what do we learn from that? And hold this space. Well, yeah, quote unquote mistakes. It's all beautiful lessons.
Beautiful lesson. True.
But like when you have two people who are willing to just one have each other's back, but two just have that space to allow each other to grow, and then I guess three now is give us permission. Like it's okay to like fail or make a mistake or try things and just see, because it helps to make that love way much stronger. I love the fact of two how relationship wise is one about how you relate, but two it's building this foundation together.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what you said about growth, I think that growing together is super important. Like communication, listening to each other is the way to grow. When you grow, then you can never get tired, in the relationship. But you have to leave that space open. You have to be open to compromise. And but growing together is like the most magical part of the relationship. After, the initial phase where it's all, fairy tale. But later the growing part is magical too.
Absolutely. It makes me wonder, does the book have traces of your fairy tale story?
Ooh.
The book is the story, like the complete story with all the darkness and the light. Yeah, it has everything. So I want to just be honest, like, and also tell people, hey, when you go to the movies and look at these fairy tales and you think they just happen on the big screen, it's not true. They just don't happen in reality because people, as I was saying, they give up too soon. So they exist. It's just about you, what you really want to do, and like how persistent you are. And obviously, I'm not inviting people. Like there is like a thin line right between obsession and following your intuition. But I learned that obsession comes from a place of fear, whereas intuition comes from a place of love. And when you start to get more spiritual, you start to really understand the difference between these two forces.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious, how did it strike you that you wanted to be an author and articulate all of these things to the public?
So initially, I just wanted to get the story out. I was like, this story deserves to be told. I was like, I don't care how many people will read it, but I just feel this has to go into the universe, and I have to put it out there. So I did it with the way I could, and it's funny. I wrote it in English because for some reason, the English language is more immediate, more direct. for me, Italian is a beautiful language, don't get me wrong. But it's just like the sentences can be very long sometimes. And like, I am a person, I guess, I want to get straight to the point. And so English has always been more true to me. And so I put it down in the best way I could. And I was like, I don't care. I don't want to find like an agent. I just want to put it out there. So a friend of mine helped me, an American friend, did the editing part. So it was like homemade. And then I self-published it. And I was like, yeah, and I'm just going to do it on my own, you know. And to be like a self-publisher, it had a discreet success. You know, obviously it didn't sell like thousands and thousands of copies, but in the hundreds. So it was great. And yeah, I was really happy. So that's like, I kind of started with writing. And then I thought like, oh, maybe writing is another way to help people. Because overall, I've always wanted to help people, be a person of service in some capacity. When I was younger, I wanted to be a psychologist, but I thought I had too much empathy and I was afraid to bring the problems of people back home with me. So I was like, I can't, you know, it's just going to destroy me with time. You know, I just can't do that. And so I dropped that and went into hospitality because I thought like, at least what I can do is help people have a better time during their vacation. I was like, well, at least I can do that, you know. And then writing came in and I was like, well, writing is so powerful. You know, there are so many life-changing books. People write articles that, like, you know, sometimes can really get to the person in the right moment. And so I decided to study the craft. I thought that writing was a tool for me to help people. So it all comes back to the idea of wanting to be of service and like spreading messages.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Woo. What a journey.
Yeah. Yeah, and the last part, like, I mean, this year has been like another big part of my life where it was like really transformational because I had a baby last year and my first child, and I suffered from postpartum depression and anxiety at the beginning of this year, and I discovered, first of all, that many women suffer from it. It's just that we as women don't talk about it because, well, some women just probably want to forget about it because it's a painful time and it's okay. And others just wanted to just show that, you know, their life is wonderful and their motherhood is wonderful, but there is another reality. And so it was really challenging because I personally, what happened to me, and every postpartum depression anxiety is different, right? So during the first couple of months, my husband was home and he was really helpful. Like for me, things started when he went back to work because I would be alone with the baby and my brain kind of just like couldn't process that idea. I also had like a difficult birth. You know, the head of my son got stuck, so they had to do a C-section. So that was kind of my worst case scenario. So it took me a little while to also process what was happening to my body. So nothing really helped like to create attachment to my son up to that point. But the problem was that when I was alone with him, I was like, I can't do this. You know, my brain was like, this little being, I have to keep him alive. Like, how do I do this? Sometimes I can't even take care of myself. Like, how do I take care of another being? And so I developed this really strong anxiety, and I talked to my husband. And he said, like, if you want to look for help, you know, external help, talk to you, a professional. I was like, yeah, totally, I'm open. I don't know what's going on with me. And so I talked to my OB at the time. And she said, yeah, I'll book you an appointment. Then I looked for other women who are going through the same thing on Facebook groups because it's easy to find other women who have gone through the same thing. But what happened, for me, it didn't work in a sense that most people probably like talking to other people who have gone through similar things because they feel less lonely. But for me, it was the opposite. The more I talk about my negative feelings, the more I identified with them. So the more I talk about like how anxious I was, I felt that anxiety more. I was like, I am that anxiety, you know, and that's our problem as humans. Our brain convinces about like things because it wants to attach meaning to temporary emotions. Emotions are temporary, but the brain is always there and it creates this like negative circles. And so I realized I was like, wait, I am identifying with this. I am feeling this too much and it's not good for me. And so what I did is I asked my family and friends to just remind me of the person I was before. So essentially I told my brain, hey, this is temporary. This is not me. This is going to go away because I've always been a positive person in love with life. And so I ask the people close to me to just remind me of the wonderful things we did together, my positivity, and the times I inspire them. And so that was really helpful for me. But then what really helped me was using the chakra system as a roadmap. So I don't know if your listeners are familiar with the chakra system, but essentially the idea is that out of the physical body, we have an energy body, and it's composed by these main 7 energy centers. And so I decided to, and each of these centers is connected to a specific part of the body and a specific area of our life. So I knew that my postpartum depression and anxiety was an identity crisis because there was kind of like a disconnect between the person I was before and the new person. But there was something else, like something I couldn't like really put my finger on. And so I decided to just like, when the anxiety came, just like accept it, breathe into it, and listen to my body. Like, what is the tension? You know, just really asking questions without judgment, like trying to investigate a little. And so I felt like kind of a pressure on my chest. And the fourth chakra, the heart, is all about love and compassion and self-love. And so I was like, well, the moment I think I'm not able to take care of my son and I'm a bad mom, I stop loving myself. And that's why I wasn't able to love my son because I stopped loving myself. Sorry. And so I use like tools like meditation, about love and kindness and sending light to the space in the heart and positive affirmations about loving myself to heal. And I was able to heal. So it was really powerful for me. It just taught me that we can retrain our brain no matter how dark things can get. It takes discipline, time, and patience. And so I felt like I can do this for other people. I think I can help them. And that's how, you know, my spiritual business started this year.
Wow.
Yeah. I forgot to put that part. I was reading and I was like, what happened to the 2020 part? Because I put it in the invite.
Yeah.
Because this is powerful.
Yeah.
So synchronistically, I was like, let me just let it go. I'm pretty sure it's going to pop up in this conversation. And
Yeah.
hearing it, the way that you explained it, put so much more energy into this, into that part of your life and your journey and what you did. And one, congratulations on your little one, and two, congratulations for going within and really sitting with this. It's something, because I have a child as well, and like it's something I haven't really thought about, like on the mother's end, that the depression that happens, and there's a lot of work being done. You're bringing a life into the world, and there's a lot of energy, and also for those 9 months, there's another being that you're being a service to at all times, like really being serviced and connected to. So it makes total sense that like this type of thing, like the postpartum depression, is happening out there. And oh man,
It's very common. It's very common also, like, you know, and again, it takes different forms and shapes because honestly, like many people suffer from anxiety, but the idea is that in order to heal, you need to find the root of this anxiety. And that's why, you know, the chakra system can really help you because it can be like something related to a sense of safety and security. So it's about the root chakra and maybe something that happened to you when you were little. Like you have to really dig into this anxiety because most of the time, you know, it manifests in different ways throughout life, but the root is often the same. And once you understand that root, you're able then to use certain tools, spiritual tools, you know, that I use and I use with my clients to heal. But you have to do the work, you know, nobody can do it for you. Obviously, you know, I don't believe in Western medicine. After like being into spirituality so much, I still think that obviously Western medicine is useful. But when it comes to really healing, I think that spirituality is where it's at.
mm, yeah. Feels like the Western medicine, a lot of it is just a band-aid for what's really going on in the root. And with the spiritual work, it allows you to go into the root, like really go within to see where it started, to see like whatever issue you're dealing with, where it really originated from. And yeah, like healing the spiritual side of you, it seemed like the body and everything else just gets in order.
Yeah, yeah. Everything is energetical. Like I feel like what I believe is that when we have physical issues, it's because they start energetically, but it happens that they get so strong that then become physical, right? But it all starts at an energetical point, in my opinion, because I believe in the chakra system a lot. It's kind of my philosophy of life and what I use to help my clients now. So my spiritual business is based on the idea of the chakra system. And I analyze the chakra system of the person. So I do ask my clients to fill out an intake form that can help me understand where the blockages may be. And then I talk to them for an hour where I also intuitively connect spiritually with them and try to see where these blockages are. And then I give them tools to remove these blockages, and I put everything in written form. So I write, it's kind of what I call a report and action plan about their spiritual situation, their energetical situation. And so I use different tools, mainly based on the chakra system. I do a little bit of, I look into their astrological and Ayurveda profile. And then I use the tarot to look into their soul's path. Because since I believe in reincarnation, I believe that our souls are here to learn specific lessons. And they're based on lessons that we haven't learned in previous lifetimes. So we are here to learn specific lessons, and usually they come to us through events and synchronicities, like things that keep on happening, right? You may have like different actors in your life, but they take out that same feeling out of you. It can be your mom, it can be your boss, but there's something there. So when you start to pay attention to these events and synchronicities in your life, you uncover the soul path. And through the tarot, I ask the tarot what your soul path is and what the lesson is. And so it's kind of all packaged in this written form. So I combine writing and spirituality into one project to help people.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing to like witness like your unique combination of modalities coming together to really create a service that is like full spectrum. You know, you get to heal, you get to discover about yourself, and also you get to like really dive deep into like who the person is, you know, like really.
Yeah, and also like spirituality can be intimidating for people, you know, because there's so many different, you know, philosophies and things out there, right? So my plan puts together, gives you like a little hint of everything, shows you the big picture. And then obviously if you want to dig deeper, you know, there are thousands of books and things like that, but it kind of gives you this big picture. So I think the big picture is powerful. And then spirituality is such a huge thing in life. Each one of us has to find their own path. It's like an ongoing work, and honestly the job of a lifetime. And so my plan kind of gives you a little start. It shows you that big picture, and then you do the work, and then you kind of like dig a little bit deeper into what you think you believe more in, because it's all about, for me, it's about creating your own almost little religion, right? You don't have to subscribe to a specific religion. You can take little things from astrology, from Ayurveda, and then create this little thing. And that's how, you know, my little plan developed.
Wow. That's synchronistic what you just said, because I kid you not, I was having this conversation yesterday of spirituality and how the same thing, like, let me get a little bit of this, let me get a little bit of that, a little bit of this. And we've been brought up, and like you in the Catholic side and me and the Christianity, of like this boxed in way of spirituality and this way of being. And it's like you try to contain something that's infinite, and it's still powerful in its own way, but it gets you to a certain point. And there's always a point, because you're not allowing the full infinite to flow. And not saying that is right, not saying it's wrong. It's all different truths. And I love the fact of what you mentioned, and this is why we're having a conversation, because we're on the same vibration of talking about it this way. Just how it's cool to like dib and dab in each one, but find the one that's good for you and use that one, because there's a lot of things out there that tell you, do it this way. This is the way of doing it. This is the way of healing yourself, or this is the way of doing this. And like for me, where I see is like, it's somebody saying like, this is how I did it, and I'm trying to force it upon you, compared to like, okay, this is how I was able to do it. It might work for you. There's something in it that may resonate with you. There's something that may not resonate with you. But here, this is what I'm sharing. This is my truth. And I love the fact when you say, I set you with the map, but you got to do the work.
Yeah, yeah, totally. You heal yourself, you know.
Yeah.
Like if someone out there tells you that they can heal you, don't believe them. Run away because you heal yourself, you know. And yeah, going back to that idea of, you know, like taking little things from different philosophies and things like that, it gives you power to, it's empowering, right? Someone recently asked me, what if someone believes in God? How do you explain your plan, you know, your guide that you write for them? And I'm like, I don't have to explain it because you don't have to give it a label. You read it, take what resonates with you, you know, like you don't have to put a label on it. If the lesson that comes out of the title is patience, like I'm thinking patience because it's my big lesson of this lifetime, I know. You know, like take it, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it comes from, you know, it can really still help you, you know, see things in a different way. So I don't want to put label on anything. And I've always been kind of a rebel, you know, in my life, I guess. So this is kind of how I build my little religion. And I want to invite people to do the same.
Yes. And from another rebel, I see you.
So one of the questions that we'd love to ask is like, what does your day look like? You know, when you're getting ready to serve your clients, to, you know, be with the, you know, what the day is bringing you, how do you prepare?
So one thing that I've learned, there are things that I've learned through motherhood that are so precious, like these lessons that I'll always bring with me. It's about living, one is about living the present moment and really try to be focused on the activity that I'm doing. Because being with your son, when you're with your son, your daughter, it's so important to be there, like really with all of you. Because, well, first of all, like you're going to miss these moments, right? If you're not there because they pass by so fast. And also because what I learned is like how to see motherhood in a spiritual way. So when I was really anxious and thinking so much about the pressure that mom feel, you know, like about providing and teaching, I kind of like changed perspective. Like I saw the opposite, being spiritual. I was like, well, wait a minute, like kids come directly from the source, whatever again you believe in, God, universe, source. So they're pure light, you know. So if you believe in reincarnation, especially, like, you know, it's a cycle. And so once the baby comes to life, it's the closest you can get to the spiritual, to the source, to the light. And so when you're with them, you gotta like suck that energy because it's so magical, right? And so that is very important for me. It really made me reframe motherhood, took away the pressure, the anxiety, and also reminded me when you're with your son, be with him. Try not to think. So I try my best to separate what is business from what is the time with my son, and not to think about business when I'm with my son and the opposite. Because living in the present is where you really find, I found, you know, joy. We tend to think that happiness is something that we find with external factors, and instead it's something internal. And probably people heard this like many times, but the idea is that the joy and happiness that you feel when you live in the present moment and you don't go back to your regrets in the past or the anxiety of the future is very authentic, because it's the joy of being alive, the gratitude of being alive. It's not connected to success, to a milestone. Yes, milestones are great, you know, but you know. So instead, the joy of the present moment is just very authentic. It's always there for you. It regenerates the more you live in the present moment. So that's one big thing that I try to work on every day, because obviously it's not easy, and the mind always goes back to the past and the future. But the practice is keep on going back to the present. When you go somewhere else, you just go back, come back to the present. And so in terms of routine, I start usually before. So my husband takes the early shift in the morning because I don't function really well before 7 a.m. So can't do that. So he does that, and then I do a little either yoga or the stationary bike for 10 minutes. Then I meditate. That's kind of how I start my day. And then what I do for, like, if I have appointments with clients, I try to really focus on every activity moment by moment. I learned that it really helps me to stay balanced, to stay grounded, to stay centered. And it gives me joy. That new joy that I discover of the present moment is so precious.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for giving us a sneak peek behind the scenes, as to what goes on your end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A comment here from our live audience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the religion I was raised in, they said go to the Pope or this religious leader because they were the mediator to communicate on your behalf to the divine. It says, on my journey, I learned to have direct connection and a personal relationship. I need no one. I just have to tune in and be present.
Yeah, I so agree with this. I don't think you need an intermediate. We all come on this earth with spirit guides. There's angels. Again, if you want to label them, spirit guides, angels, they are here to protect us and to talk to us anytime we want. And obviously it takes practice. You need to silence the mind, find space for meditation in your life, because when you create space between the thoughts, that's when they talk to you. That's when you receive that intuition. If you keep on thinking the past, the future, whatever, they're not going to be able to talk to you. But I totally agree with this message. You don't need any intermediate. You have a direct channel and you can nurture it every single day. In fact, I say, and I recently published a YouTube video about this, we all have psychic abilities. We all can develop them because we all come from the same source. There's no intermediate. We all come, or special person, we come from the same source. And psychics are people who developed a skill. People are obviously come here, they're more in tune with their intuition. But some people are more in tune with math, and they're better at that. But you can master it, and the more you create space between these thoughts, the more you can receive messages.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I love what you said, how we all have the tools.
Yeah.
It's just who gets to open up their tools and play with them.
Yeah. I just love empowering people, there's nobody special, out there. Obviously, you can go to a psychic because you didn't develop that skill yet, but the idea is to empowering you. That's what I like doing, that's kind of my mission. I feel to empower people. And obviously you have to do the work. Clearly, if you want to connect with your guides, with your angels, with God, you have to do the work every day. Find the practice that works for you. Live in the present. Meditate, and you'll receive messages. You'll connect. You'll find more intuition, and you'll understand, uncover more things in your life that take you to really realize your soul's path.
Yeah.
Man, I was trying to get enlightenment in a box.
Or a drink.
Right? Can you imagine? Enlightenment.
That would be nice. It takes work. And also, there's part of it that I think that many people don't talk about is you have to really work with your shadow too. In the path to enlightenment, there's nothing easy. You have to uncover your shadow, send love to it, and really work with it. Accepting it is very important. We have to accept our flaws, our negative side, because once we resist something, it becomes more powerful. Instead of rejecting and resisting your shadow, send some love to it. So that's how you kind of clear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the part. That's the fine print part that people don't really read in the spiritual path, meaning that you gotta sit with yourself in those shadow parts of yourself. It's not always love, light, positivity. It's can you find that in the shadow parts of yourself and get into that point of being that and that? That's where the fun is.
And also, I kind of hate that recently, well, especially now in the Western world, right? Spirituality became so commercial and it's about people who have money. Oh, go to this retreat, it's going to be, okay, yeah, retreat is going to be wonderful, but it's not going to be the life-changing thing. And also, honestly, you can afford it because you have the money to go to that retreat. But spirituality is for everybody. It doesn't matter if you can afford it or not, you know. And I kind of hate that in the Western world, the way we took spirituality is about people who have time, who can pay for yoga and go to meditation. No, it's about, you know, finding and nurturing that gift that you have.
Yeah, it's like the thing, because it reminds me of just thinking about the Tao, the way the Tao of being in the center and balance, and like too much on one side, it's an imbalance, and too much on the other side is a balance. And it's perfect because I get into this space of spirituality, and when I first got into like spirituality, more into it, I used to think that like, oh, not supposed to have money and all this other stuff. You're supposed to like get rid of everything and pretty much live in a tree somewhere or whatever like that, and never shave myself and,
on a mountain.
On a mountain, yeah, and don't really care about money. But as I got deeper into it, for me, I started to understand more. It's not about getting rid of things. It's about getting rid of your attachment to these things. But also there's like here, of course, we're these evolved spiritual beings, but we're also human. And we have necessities as well. And I finally got to a point for myself of like, it's okay to want money. It's okay to do that, do those things. And it's also okay for me to serve powerfully as well and be able to serve, but also be able to receive. It's like an energetic exchange. But you can see what's happening, especially when you mention in society when it's too much on the end of money wise and not so much on the spiritual side, and on the opposite side, too much of the spiritual side and really pushing yourself and really being a service, but not receiving the stuff that you need and feeling bad about not charging and all these other things. So it's like there's like this scale like playing around back and forth. But I would love to hear your perspective on that and go more into that.
Yeah, I think there are honestly just so many misconceptions about spirituality. You know, it's not for rich people and it's not for poor people, as you were saying, like the opposite. It's not about going on the mountain and being an hermit. It's not, the definition of it is completely wrong. Like some people, the way they think about the meaning of spirituality is wrong. And the way I see it, it's like my take on spirituality is the fall of the illusion of separation. When you start to understand that you're connected to other human beings, to the planet, to the universe, when you feel that sense of connection and that your life has a bigger meaning, that time is kind of something just that everything that happens in this life is kind of temporary. And you don't have to label it. You don't have to, again, believe in something specific, but having this feeling that your life is something more, you know, it's connected to something bigger. And once you feel this connection on a daily basis, that's how you become spiritual, you know. So I think that the problem is the way people took spirituality and they use it for their own, you know, like anything else. But there's nothing wrong with living in this life the way you choose to live and being paid for it, like for a service. And especially, I think that money gives us also peace of mind because, as you said, we have needs, necessities. So, I mean, once you're able to get the right money for yourself to take care of your family, you are more equipped to give, right? Because if you don't have anything to give, if you're poor, like if you don't have the means to feed your family, your mind is going to be consumed by these other thoughts. So you need that money in order to also open up this new path to help other people because you have the time, you know, and the energy, and your mind is kind of more open to that. But if your basic needs are not met, it's incredibly hard, you know, to be spiritual. And you know, it's possible still because I've been to India and people were born with an idea of spirituality. So, I mean, even for people that live on the side of the streets, you can see them that there is a sense of like accepting life for what it is, not meaning that, oh, you have to necessarily, I mean, people that are obviously believing a lot in karma and paying for something that happened in the previous lifetime, but you don't have to believe that. The idea is acceptance. What is life giving you? You take it and you try to do your best with what you have. So acceptance is an incredibly important tool too, and it is spiritual. So part of it is that we can also grow up with spirituality, and it does, and it's not related to if we grow up poor or rich. It's just that our society is not ready for it yet, or it's still using spirituality for other objectives. It's not the real spirituality for what it is.
100%. 100%.
I was struck when I went to India because there was a sense of like dignity in poor people that I would see on the side of the streets. You know, Here in the US, when you see poor people, there's also always this idea of like a broken promise, something that wasn't given to them. And so once, you get the money, you then want alcohol, you want to forget, you want drugs. But poverty in India has a dignity to it. And I think it's connected with the fact that you accept your condition and you try your best with the tools you have to live. You're not angry. You're not trying to blame someone for it. Whereas in our Western society, there's always someone, oh, they took that away from me. They didn't give me my American dream or whatever. And so I'm going to spend money in alcohol and drugs. So it's like, it's a culture, it's a perception. So there's a lot wrong with our Western society. Obviously, I'm not saying that India is perfect by any means. But when we travel, also the beauty of it is find different things and that we can take back with us and learn, right?
Yeah, I was just watching a video about that too, like the different ways of like society, how in India you see more of spirituality being like out there for more people, and like people over there, they have more poverty than over here in the Western world, but they're so much at peace. They have such a more of an inner peace than over here. And then you come over here in which there's plenty of opportunities for us to be able to generate some type of income, make money, chase a dream and stuff like that. But the society over here as a norm, and it gets pushed on us as a subconscious belief, is we got to accumulate more. We got to keep working hard. We got to keep doing this and this, all these things. And you can, like you say, you can really see the difference. I've never been to India before, and it's on my bucket list because I would love to just experience a different culture like that. Just really just see how it is to just be in a place that on the external, it could look like, oh my God, it looks way more worse than what it is in America or whatever like that. But internally, it's like, wow, these guys found something very powerful.
Yeah, in India, there's still like, don't get me wrong, there are issues that like there's a lot of division between rich and poor people because they believe in karma and the idea that if you're poor, oh, that's because you're paying your debt. So I didn't like that part, but I'm talking about the positive things, right, that we can take with us, and this idea of spirituality as something that we can grow into, as a society. But I trust that there is, like, I've heard like from other spiritual leaders that there's a collective shift going on. And I think this year 2020 is about looking inward, right? It requests us to look inward because once we can't go out, we can do the things we used to do. We are like almost forced to go inside. And for some people, it's more natural, right? But for others, I hope it was a lot of work, but also like the preparation work for connecting more with their spirituality. So I trust that there is a collective shift that is happening and like more cooperation, also like between nations and things like that. Don't want to get into politics, but obviously, there's a lot to fix.
And we've got a comment here. It says, when you work with your darkness, you will find that little light of yours will shine, and it will shine brighter and brighter. And one day you'll realize that you can walk along with your shadow comfortably and everything is okay. We are powerful, energetic beings. We just need to vibrate that more often than not.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I remember during my dark times thinking that I had lost that light. Like that it wasn't there anymore for some reason. I was, can you lose it? And then I realized the answer is no. That light is always inside of us, and we can we can shine it, and then that's how we kind of work with our shadow, like almost like a chemist, like we put them together and we create something beautiful, we transform it. But that light is kind of always with us. And I recently did like a beyond quantum healing session. So the idea is that you start with an intention, you go under hypnosis, and you talk to your guides. So essentially they show you what you need to see, what you need to know in this moment of your life. And one of the biggest lessons, I think the question was, how can I connect with them more? And they said, just close your eyes and see a light. Once you see a light above you, that's where we are. It's just so simple. When we can connect with that light, that's where the truth is. And it's always there with us. Even in the darkest time, we never lose it. Never, never.
Yeah, 100%. Excellent. Well, we are getting to that time. It's amazing how fast an hour goes by.
Right? Yeah.
I want to make sure that we're sharing with everyone too where they can find you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What will we be able to find your services and your books at this website?
Yes. The book is listed in my about section, and my services are in the guidance section.
Excellent. So can you just tell us a little bit about where people are in their lives when they typically come to you?
Well, usually, I would say there are people who are already, mainly women. So mainly I help professional women connect with their spiritual side. So I would say that most of my clients are people who have already a level of self-awareness, that they know there's something they want to change, they feel stuck. They want to change something in their life, they want to improve their life, but there is a level of self-awareness. And I think that the idea is that they maybe didn't explore spirituality in depth, so they're curious about many things, and so they kind of want someone who can introduce them to spirituality in a way that, again, as I said before, gives the big picture. And so that's kind of like what I do for them.
That's beautiful. And as we get ready to depart, do you have any final closing pieces of guidance, that you can share with the people that are listening?
Yeah, I would say that it's very important to find a moment during the day to get grounded or get centered, whatever your preferred practice is. One simple thing that you can do is just close your eyes, breathe, see a light coming from above, and clearing all the spaces in yourself, and seeing this light get it into the core of the earth, so that you're connected with the earth below your feet and the heaven above.
Awesome parting words. And thank you so much for showing up, how you showed up and showing your magic for us. It was an amazing conversation. I learned a lot.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun, really, best conversation.
Thank you also to everyone who's watching and listening. We appreciate you. We see your comments, and we love having you engaged here with us. Chiara, you have been a gift to us today. Thank you so much for your presence.
Thank you so much, guys, and happy Thanksgiving, since it's right before Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Same to you.
Yeah.
Awesome. And everyone, please check out Chiara's website here, chiarabtownley.com, and you can find everything that we've talked about today. So thank you all again. Have a great holiday.
Yeah, stay magical.
Stay magical.